Good morning, you beautiful bunch of weirdos. Yeah, and you may be thinking we're not weirdos, but there are some people who really think you are, and me too. And I want to find out if we really are. A month ago, I said we created a survey. Well, we're going to take that survey today. We're going to find out just how misfit we are. It's a survey, and the way that you take it, can you get out your cell phones? You have your cell phones? Is there anybody who doesn't have a cell phone? Well, you can't participate in the survey. Scan the QR code, or you go to your online browser, go to menti.com, and you type in that number, 1582-4412. If you scan in the QR code, it should take you directly to the survey. And what you'll find when you get there is an outline of what is often called the Big Five personality traits. And what we want you to do, normally if we were going to be super scientific about this, you would rank them. We just want you to put down the top one, the one that you think describes you the best, not your spouse, not your children, you. And let me walk you through each one of these five, so just to help you get a sense of it. The first one is conscientiousness. A person whose personality is dominantly high in conscientiousness is a person who's detail-oriented. They're a person who is task-oriented. They're very good at doing things for others. They're goal-driven, they're orderly, they're persistent. The next one is agreeableness. Agreeableness is the kind of person who keeps things running smoothly. They finish what they start. Their yes is yes and their no is no. Agreeableness is a person who is able to be helpful and caring and honest, a person who sees the best and does the best for others. Neuroticism, and this is a pejorative term. It's neuroticism. Think of neuroticism as you are very sensitive. You are driven by your inner thoughts and by your emotions. If you are sort of an emotionally sensitive person, you are high in neuroticism. I know that sounds terrible, but the reality is people who are high in neuroticism are people who are very in touch, very self-aware of the things that they're thinking and feeling. Openness is the next one, and this has to do with curiosity. Are you creative? Are you an adventurous person? A person who's high in openness is a person who is insatiable in their curiosity, their creativity. They love change. They enjoy new things. They have a vivid sense of imagination. And then there's extroversion. Extroversion is basically a person who is energized by being around other people. If you're a person who that kind of exhausts you, you're an introvert. An extrovert is a person who loves social settings, who never met a stranger, makes friends very easily. Now, don't overthink this. So what you do on the menti.com is you just take the first one that you think of. It's pretty reliable. If you just kind of react and say I think I'm a conscientious person, or I'm an agreeable person, or I'm a neurotic person, or I'm an open person, or I'm an extrovert. Just whatever the first one is, send that in, and we'll compile the data. And we'll see how weird we are. We'll see if we really are the outcasts. But I'm suspicious. I'm suspicious that the distinctive of a community like Riverbend is not our personalities. I'm suspicious that our personalities will be all over all five of those. But what makes us distinctive is not our personalities, it is the traits of our community. It is who we are as a group. It is who we are as a family. A month ago, we began a conversation about the DNA of the church. From the very first day of the very first church, there were four things that the church did and were part of sort of the pillars upon which every church ever since has been built. And they are the distinctives of a place like Riverbend. They're recorded for us in the 2nd chapter of Acts in the 42nd verse. And the 4 distinctives of that community were that they were devoted to the apostles' teaching, to fellowship, to the breaking of bread, and to prayer. They came together to learn. They were devoted to the apostles' teaching because they realized they learned from each other and they learned better together. Fellowship is the word koinonia, and basically they were committed to being the best friends they could possibly be. The breaking of bread that we talked about last week was not just the communion experience, it was they shared a meal, they shared life. Their experience together as a church was like being in the room with family, like being around the dinner table. They were devoted to the breaking of bread, and today we come to the 4th attribute. The 4th distinctive, the thing that makes us genuinely weird. They devoted themselves to prayer. And today I want to talk about how it is that prayer makes all of us better. But before we talk about that, maybe rather than talk about prayer, we should do it. Would you pray with me? Father in heaven, I would ask that the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart would be pleasing in your sight, and that you would use your words spoken by your servant and anointed by your Spirit to challenge us to learn from each other about you. Pray that for myself and for my family, for all of us here, for I ask that in Jesus' name. Amen. You know who the best prayers in the world are? The best prayers in the world are our kids. Our kids are the best prayers in the world because they have learned just to talk to God. They do it without prejudice. They don't worry about formulas. They don't worry about King James English. They talk to God as if he's their friend. And there are books that are published about children's prayers because, frankly, they're adorable. And some of the kids' prayers that you might find online or you might find in one of these books are things like this prayer. Dear God, I need you to make my mom not allergic to cats. I really want a cat, and I don't want to ask my mom to move out. Or this one. Dear God, when my sister stopped being annoying, I'm down to my last patience. Or this. I like this one. Dear God, please send me a pony. I haven't asked for anything before. You can look it up. This one, could have been me praying this. Dear God, my mom tells me that you have a reason for everything on earth. I guess broccoli is one of your mysteries. And then this one, dear God, is Pastor Dave a friend of yours, or do you just know him from the business? I'm glad our kids are here today. I'm glad our children are with us today because I want to talk to you. I want to thank you for teaching us how to pray. I want to thank you for your example. And I want to thank you for being honest with God. It was a number of years ago when my kids were little. And if you have young children, you understand there's a season where you're raising young children where your life is chaos. It's just every day. And as a parent, I hate to admit it, I got a little threadbare at times. And so the time that kind of brought our family together was dinner. We would come around the dinner table, and no matter how chaotic the day would be, we would come around the dinner table, we'd hold hands, and we'd say a prayer. I wish I could tell you that we were a praying family, like we had prayer devotions, and we prayed on Saturday afternoon. No, we were lucky to get in a thank you for the food at dinner. Sometimes we prayed with our kids before they went to bed, but that was our prayer time. And I remember one time specifically, it was a long day for both Diane and I, and we got the kids around the dinner table, and they were like 6, 4, and 2, and they were just going at it. You know what it is? They just won't settle down, and I knew, okay, I'm going to punish them with prayer. We're going to pray, so hold our hands. And I was like, I got to get this done. And as soon as we held hands and bowed our heads, my oldest daughter jumped out of her seat and knelt down by the table. I said, Kaya, what are you doing? And she said, Daddy, I just wanted to pray like you. Yeah. That goes straight through your heart. That's like, ow. And I realized that I should learn from my children, because my children understand that prayer is for family. It's what family does. It is the privilege of being a child of God, is talking to God. There's no formality in it. When you're family, you have access. The idea is that there are 6 times in the Gospels, in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, where Jesus talks to and about the children. And all 6 times, he says the same thing. Like he says in Luke chapter 18. He says, don't you dare hinder the children from coming to me. You know why? Because the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. Because they understand. You understand, kids. This is what family does. I'm old enough to remember a day when I grew up, we never locked our doors on our house. Never. I never had a key to my house growing up. I can never remember unlocking a door. It was always unlocked. And all my neighbors' doors were unlocked. But I would never think of just walking into my neighbor's house. I would always knock on the door. I would ring the doorbell because it wasn't my house. Down the road from us, there was a family, the O'Briens. They were Catholics. They had like 9 kids. And their kids were crazy. And one of the kids was named Timmy, and he was exactly my age. Well, he was born in the same month that I was. And Timmy was kind of kooky. And I remember one time we were sitting around our dinner table in our kitchen at our house, and I turned around, Timmy was standing right behind me. Timmy would just walk into our house and open our refrigerator and take food out of it. He was standing behind me at dinner going, what are we having? I'm like, we? You're not in our family, Timmy. Thank you, kids. Thank you for reminding us that prayer is a privilege of family. We don't have to ring the doorbell. We don't have to wait to be let in. We can just come in. It's home. And you know what else? It's a reminder. You remind us when you pray that we are children of God. That we are children of God. On behalf of every mom and dad here, on behalf of everyone who's ever been a parent, I am sorry. I am sorry for the times when life gets in the way. I am sorry when we get caught up in our own stuff, when we get so busy, when we get so myopic and so anxious about life, when we lose track and we don't listen to you and we don't hear you and we're not fully present with you. I apologize on behalf of every mom and dad who ever had a moment where they looked through you to what was on television, or they looked at you and didn't hear a word you said. I'm sorry. But what you remind us of when you pray is that we have a Father in heaven who is a perfect listener. There's a story where Jesus was off praying, and when he came back, his disciples asked him, this is in Luke chapter 11, and he came back and they said, teach us to pray. And remember what he said? It's recorded in a number of the Gospels. He says, pray this way. When you pray, pray this. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, the glory. Amen? We all know that, but we miss the first 2 words. Our Father. Abba, Father, Daddy. We are precious in his sight. It is a catharsis for us to pray. It's like sitting around the dinner table. How was your day? That God longs to hear our voice. I promise you there is not a parent here who has ever lost a child who would not trade every moment of the rest of their life to hear their child's voice one more time. And that's how precious you are. And that's how precious I am. It's exactly why God spoke through Jesus in Matthew chapter 11. He said, come to me, all you who are weary, and I like the King James, and heavy laden. All of you who are too busy and too burdened, come to me because I care about you. Learn from me. Take my yoke upon you because my yoke is easy and my burden is light because I will always hear you when you call. And when you kids pray, you remind us. You remind us that we're talking to Dad. We're talking to our Father. But there's one more thing. There's one more thing that you do when you pray. When you kids pray, you remind us that it's good. It's a good thing to have someone who's smarter than us in our life. Someone who sees the big picture. Someone who we can trust, knows what's best for us, even when we don't know what's best. That's a good thing for us to have. And you know what the problem is? The rub is that we as adults, we don't believe that. Because you see, we've prayed a long time. And we've prayed for people to be healed, and they haven't been. And we've prayed for things to work out, and they got worse. And we have prayed and we have begged God to remedy situations or to heal our broken heart or to provide us with the things that we long for, and it doesn't happen. And time after time after time, we've been disappointed. And so we begin to doubt that God knows what is best for us. I tell the story all the time about my little girls when they were growing up. We had a pool. We lived in Dallas and we had a pool, and every winter we put up one of those portable fences around it, and they wouldn't swim. It wasn't a heated pool. So we'd get to, late February, early March, those beautiful 75, 80 degrees days that you get in the spring in Texas, and they would want to go in the pool. And I knew the pool water was like 50 degrees. So I'm like, no. And they're like, Dad, we want to go swim. I'm like, no. And I remember it was after about 3 years of them begging to go swimming in late February when sure, go ahead. And they jumped in the pool, and they jumped right out of the pool. And I thought, why was I telling them no? I was telling them no because I knew better. It's what dads do. It's what we're supposed to do. And when you kids pray, you remind us that we're talking to someone who knows what is best for us, even when we don't know what is good for us. You're talking to someone who you trust, even when the answer is no. I've always loved cars. I've been a car guy since I was a small kid. I can't remember not being a car guy. So as I was becoming a teenager, all I thought about was, what is my first car going to be? I'm going to buy a car. I worked summer jobs. I worked during school. I saved money all through my teen years so that by the time I got to 16 years old, hold your breath, I had $2,000 in the bank. I mean, that was quite an accomplishment for 4 or 5 years of part-time jobs and summer jobs and picking corn on the farm and saving everything I had. I turned 16 years old, and I went to my dad. I said, I got to get a car. And he's like, no. And every day I would look in the papers and I would go to car dealerships and I would walk around the lot. I went to junkyards. I remember going to my dad when I was 17 years old, and I found this car in the junkyard, and I thought, I got to buy this car. This car is beautiful. And so I went home and I said to my dad, I found a car in the junkyard. He said, you found a car where? I said, in the junkyard. It's perfect. It's a perfect car. He goes, Dave, it wouldn't be in the junkyard if it was perfect. And I said, there's only one thing wrong with it. He says, what's that? I said, it doesn't have an engine. But we can fix that, right? I mean, how hard can it be to put an engine in a British sports car? And my father said, no, we're not doing that. I remember the day. It was 4 months before my 18th birthday. This was after 2.5 years, virtually 3 and 4 times a week going, Dad, I want to buy this car. Dad, I should buy this car. Dad, I would buy this car. No. I walked into my mom and dad's bedroom. My dad was taking a nap. After school, my dad was a school teacher. He taught special education. He would come home and pass out. I never understood that till now. I understand it perfectly. But he would take a nap before dinner, and I ran in and I woke my dad up because on the way home from school, I had seen a 1971 Triumph TR6 sitting on the side of the road with a for sale sign. I said, Dad, I found the car. And he said, okay. And I said, it's a 71 TR6. He goes, well, let's go look at it. And we drove out. It was $2,100. And that was my first car. And I promise you, every day I drove that car, I thanked my Father for 200 no's. Every time you pray, kids, every time you pray, you remind us we're talking to a Father who knows best, who knows better than we do. In the book of Matthew, Jesus tells us, ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and it will be open to you. Because anyone who asks will receive, and anyone who seeks will find, and anyone who knocks, it will be open to them. Don't you understand, he says, that if you as screwed up parents understand how to love your kids, because when your kid asks you for bread, you don't give him a stone. Or if he asks you for a fish, you don't give him a snake. If you know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more does your Father in heaven know how to give you good gifts? Kids, when you pray, every time you pray, you remind us, you teach us that we are family, that we don't have to have permission to come in. This is home for us. You remind us that we have a Father in heaven. We have a parent in heaven who longs to hear our voice, who believes that we are priceless and precious. And we have a Father in heaven. We have a God in heaven who, even though he says no, will always, always, always do what is best for us because he has the big picture. Thank you, kids, for teaching us about prayer. Because children do, you know. Children teach us how to pray. It's like this. It's this child who prayed. He said, Dear God, thank you for the baby brother, but what I prayed for was a puppy. I really like this one. Dear God, I love Christmas and Easter. Could you please put another holiday in the middle? There's nothing good in there now. Or this one. Figure out this. Dear God, instead of letting people die and having to make new ones, why don't you just keep the ones you have? Or this one that has no words. Dear Lord, tear stains. Amen. You see, they teach us. This is why praying together is better. This is the life that we get to do together. We get it together. In Acts chapter 2, verse 42, from the very beginning of the church, from the very DNA of the church, they practiced 4 things. They came together because learning together was better. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching. They devoted themselves to koinonia, to fellowship, because living together was better. Doing life together was better. They broke bread together because sharing their lives was better. And they learned from each other. Because when I say I'm going to pray for you, you are better. And when you pray for me, we are better. When our kids pray, we learn from them. We get it from them. We get it together. So how do we do? If the distinctive of this place is not our personalities, I'm curious, are we really the weirdos? Because I can tell you, if that's why we're weird, if the reason that we're weird is because of these 4 things, then count me in. Call me a weirdo. I want to be different. I want to be that kind of different. But personality tells us a lot. There are studies have shown that we change with age. That our personalities change with age. It says extroversion decreases as we get older, and the other 4 categories increase as we get older. It tells us that high openness and high conscientiousness equals better grades in school, better students, if they're curious and they do their homework. Imagine that. High neuroticism, shocking, leads to lower grades. High openness leads to greater happiness. But a close second is that agreeableness and conscientiousness lead to happiness. High conscientiousness is the chief indicator of professional success. High agreeableness is the chief indicator of popularity. Not surprisingly, men and women rank differently in high and low personality traits. Men are low in extroversion and openness. No, I'm not. I'm going to go to my room and think about it. Women are low in neuroticism, feelings, really, and conscientiousness. Who'd have thought? A woman took this survey, I think. In 2007, there was a national study. The American Psychological Association did a study of the Big Five, and here's how they ranked nationally. Nationally, conscientiousness and agreeableness were equal, 20% of the population. The highest was openness, creativity, 24%. Extroversion was 18.5%, and the lowest was neuroticism. This is the national averages from 2007. Now, I want to see what our average is from 2022. How did we do? Oh my. We are highly conscientious. I didn't see that coming. And we are lowest in extroversion. No, lowest in neuroticism. Thank you very much for that. But that's interesting. We are weirdos. We are quite off the scale of what is the national averages. That's interesting. But that's not what makes us different. What makes us different is what we are as a family and what we are as a community. Because we get it together. You understand? We get it together. And all we really need is each other. You are all I need.